Good morning, happy Wednesday, another midweek, another hump day as some people call it, that hump in the middle of the week. So I hope you're rested, I hope you slept well, I hope you're remembering to breathe, look after yourself, stay as calm as you can, remembering that we are still in this situation. If you're watching this and I'm here and our children are not at school, it's because of the coronavirus, and it's because as yet we're still living in this world where schools haven't gone back as they were. Some children are in schools as they have been, but others aren't, and we are getting through. We are looking forward to a time when things relax more, and I talked yesterday about how this idea of we might build back better. So what we're going to go back to, what will the world look like, what things might we want to take from the world before and carry them on, what things might we want to decide aren't so great and we don't want to carry them on. And so today really I just wanted to check in. And also just to say that this is for me the second to last week before my summer holidays start, because I'm still, I have summer holidays as a teacher. I know some of you might find that slightly weird, but I'm ready for a break. I will be doing some work over the holidays, as teachers always do, but I will be taking a break, and for the 6 weeks I'm going to finish doing the videos. So anyway. Today I just wanted to share a short resource that I found, which I think is really helpful. Peter Vermeulen is an expert who works with autistic people. He's an expert really. He's worked with autistic people. He works internationally. I can't remember offhand what country he's actually based in. There you go, there's a task for today. Find out where Peter Vermeulen lives. But he's certainly feeling it might be Holland, but I've probably insulted a lot of people by saying that. Anyway, so Peter works with autistic people, and he does a lot of work on helping autistic people to make sense of the world when sometimes the world doesn't feel like it makes sense. And one of the ways that the brain of autistic people works is it can be quite clear cut, in the sense of, if there is a rule, then an autistic person will like to see that the rule is kept to, and that the rule isn't broken. But the difficulty, as Peter explains, is that there's no kind of absolute rules or truths in the world. And so the example he gives, which I just think is brilliant and really sticks in my mind, is that if you ask people, well, what does the red man mean when you're crossing the road? Well, the red man means stop. Because if the man is red, if the light is red, you stop. Except, if you're halfway across a crossing and the man goes from green to red, what do? You run faster to get to the other side. So there's a situation where, if you were following the rule, if you were sticking to the absolute truth that the red man means stop, you would stop in the middle of the road and the cars would come, and that would be a problem. So the reality is that sometimes the red man means go faster, and it depends on the context. It depends on the other things that are happening around, and that's a really important concept that Peter works with, which is really helpful. So if your child is autistic, and I'm using the phrase here that I believe currently autistic people prefer. So if you have an autistic child, you'll know that your child might struggle with these things, because one minute something's true and then another minute something else is true, and it's difficult. And people who aren't autistic, their brains are a bit more able to cope with that. And people who are autistic tend to find that more difficult. So anyway, Peter's written a social document which is aimed, I think, at adults really, but for you as parents, I think it might help if you have an autistic child. But also I think it's helpful, this document, for all of us to understand why we might be getting really frustrated if we see the rules being broken, and what we can do about that. And it gives some of the reasons why people might break rules. So with the COVID rules, things like staying 2 meters apart, or following the rules about not driving too far. Peter tries to explain why those things might be happening, or encourage us to ask questions about why they might. So, for example, he says most people follow the guidelines. Why do people not follow the guidelines? Well, there are different reasons why they might not follow the guidelines. Some people don't know the guidelines. And I know it's really difficult just now because I'm living in Scotland. My mum and dad and lots of my relatives are living in England. Their guidelines are different to ours. They're allowed to do, so that can be confusing. The news we hear in Scotland, a lot of it is from England. So we hear Boris Johnson saying things about what you can do, when in fact we can't do them in Scotland. So that can be difficult. Some people don't understand the guidelines. They may be too vague or too complex. Sometimes there are situations when it's impossible to follow the guidelines. If you're out for a walk and the path is narrow, maybe you can't stay 2 meters apart. Nobody's perfect. People make mistakes. And that's one where that can be really difficult. How much of a mistake are we happy to allow, and how much of a mistake do we say, well, no, sorry. Because actually, if you think about the laws of the country, sometimes people will say, oh, I did that, it was a mistake. But they'll still get prosecuted, or they'll still get punished. And then also children and maybe people with less understanding might find it more difficult to understand and follow the rules. So what he then goes on to do is say what you can do if you see a rule being broken to keep yourself safe. So it's a document which I'm finding really helpful to share, to use. So I thought I'd just share it with you as parents and carers, and I'll pop the link under the video today. So something to have a look at. Something to finish with is, the other day I saw the video of the news report of New Zealand, and a few days ago they were declared corona-free, although I know there have been a couple of cases since, but they're controlling things, they're keeping things under, really in control. And there were images of life with people in a football stadium or a rugby stadium, and people in a pub socialising. And I just felt really hopeful that we're going to get back to situations where we can see our friends and family and do the things that we used to enjoy with other people. So a little bit of that, just to remember that in other parts of the world, things are moving on, and we will get there too. So have a good day, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you tomorrow.